Okay. Michael's running late, so we'll get started without him here. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to take a fun, I don't know, hopefully it's not 2 hour long, but RTP training for your grant that you were selected for this year. And I want to wish you all congratulations as well on being selected this year. It was a very competitive year, and you should be proud of the projects that you guys applied for and everything. So let's see, just to go over our agenda really quick. Essentially, I'm just going to go through that training document I sent out, and then also we're going to take a look at the web grants portal, which is where you all submitted your applications into, and that's actually where you're going to be administering your grant as well, in terms of where you submit reimbursements, quarterly reports, if you have any like scope of work change requests or modifications and all that stuff, it'll all be done through the portal. And this is the first year that I'll be doing this as a group with all of the applicants this year, the sponsors this year at one time. This isn't really formal or anything. So if you see something that you have questions about, please do chime in and stop me, and I'd be happy to address it there on the spot. And then I think there'll be plenty of time for question and answer as well later on. And let's see here. And if you do have other folks that are not able to attend today, again, I'll try to post this onto the web grants portal and give you guys also a link to share with individuals that might need to see this training later on that I have not been able to attend today as well. So let's see where to start. I guess we'll just start with the training here. Let me share my screen. Well, screen 3. There we go. Okay. Are you guys able to see my screen with the RTP training document? Not hearing an affirmative or seeing anything, sorry.
Yes, we can see
yes,
it.
no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So we'll start with the beginning of the process. This is just going to be a walkthrough of kind of what and sorry, my screen's over here. So if I'm looking at it for a while, forgive me, but this will kind of be the timeline on what your project will experience, what you can kind of expect going through the process, and kind of when things will occur, and when, because I know a lot of folks have questions like, well, when am I going to start construction? When will construction complete? And when we have to do all these reviews and all this kind of stuff. So right now we'll start with step 1. NGPC conducts a training with their new sponsors, and then the next step after this is going to be signing what's called a project agreement. So once I finish with today's meeting, I'll be sending you a project agreement, which is just a contract essentially, that you'll have to sign and return to me, and that makes you an official sponsor. So once that's done, then it's official, and you guys are kind of locked into a project, so to speak. And then and also on this training at the end, if you guys could, when you get a chance, just sign and return this to me via email as well, and I can have that in our project file as well. Next, just so you're aware, I will put this on what's called the STIP list. It's State Transportation Improvement Program list. It's where basically NDOT kind of keeps a record of all of their federal aid highway program projects. And so your guys' projects will be listed there. And what that does is that allows me to obligate dollars to your project for reimbursement. So that'll allow, once we kind of get to the design phase here after the training, essentially, that allows me to obligate dollars to your project. And so just so you know, I only obligate as many dollars for your awarded amount, which most of you, it's about $250,000. I only obligate enough for that phase. So when you select a consultant based on your consultant price or fee that you get from that contract, I'll take that dollar figure and obligate 80% of that amount. And so that'll allow you to seek reimbursement for expenditures on that contract up until you hit that 80% threshold. And then the rest of those dollars will obligate typically during the construction phase of the project. So only obligate a small amount now for the design phase, and then obligate the remainder of the dollars during the construction phase. And that's after NEPA. Kind of getting a little bit ahead of myself there, but essentially, once we're done with the project agreement and I put you on the STIP list, I'll give you an official letter or like I'll email you a PDF letter, essentially giving you a notice to proceed to procure a consultant. If you haven't already, some already have. If you're a community that have like an on-call or a city engineer that you contract with a consulting firm type of thing. And then once you have that done, you can submit that contract to me. I'll need those for my project files, and then I will obligate dollars based off of that here. So now we're at step 5 here, where I'll be obligating dollars to the project based off your engineering costs. And I have a typo here, so excuse that. So then once you get your consultant procured, we move into the design and permitting phase. So this kind of occurs at the same time, while your consultant is working on your design for your trail. And some's more intensive if you have like bridge work that goes in it. Some don't take very long if it's just kind of a normal trail through the park and whatnot. But at that same time, we'll also be doing the NEPA. And so most trail projects fall under what's called a categorical exclusion, which is a kind of a lesser version of a NEPA review. And it entails a number of different reviews. And I tried listing out a few of the common ones that most projects will see. So you can take a look at the list there, and your consultant will be mostly familiar with all of these. Sometimes the processes though change on some of these compared to some other projects, just because the Rec Trails program is a little bit smaller and we're not building a road, so we don't always need as intensive of a review on items, but we still do have to follow federal procedures and regulations regarding this here. So for the tribal review, for example, I'll provide you a kind of template, so to speak, and you just need to fill in kind of your project information, where it's at, how many miles it is, what's the length of it, give them like a kind of a project site map and all that kind of stuff. Typically, if you're at like a 30% design, you'll kind of have like a site map or a project layout that might be helpful to include in these. And then I'll take those draft letters, send them to Fed Highway, and Fed Highway will be dispersing those to the various tribes that they have a list of tribes. So like if your project's in, Lindsay, for example, they have a specific list of tribes that they've kind of curated that they'll send out these letters to. And typically we'll send them out, and then they have 30 days to respond. If they don't respond in 30 days, Fed Highway will typically send like hey, you sent this letter on this date, just want to give you an opportunity to respond. And then usually after no more than 45 days, they'll say, okay, no response, and consider that as a no effect on a tribal review. And that's not always the case with other federal grant programs. Some of them have to get a response. So Fed Highway is nice where they do that for us. Then we have our threatened and endangered species reviews. So the state stuff is handled through a program called CERT, Conservation Environmental Assessment or something tool. I can't remember what the R stands for. And it's just an online portal that you plug in kind of your project information, and it'll spit you back essentially a list of any threatened, state threatened endangered species that might be affected by the project work. And usually trails don't have any a will affect determination. Most have either no effect or a may affect, not likely to adversely affect. And sometimes there's these things called conservation conditions that get tacked onto the project if there is a may affect or will affect determination. So like, for example, I'm trying to think of one. So like for northern long-eared bat, I can't remember the exact date range, but there's a certain date period here. There's a certain date period where you just can't cut down trees for any like right-of-way clearing and that kind of thing. So those are examples of conservation conditions. Depends on the species. Some of them, have more interruptive, so to speak, on construction activities and timelines. So like whooping crane, for example, if you're in the flyway, you typically can't build in certain periods of the year, kind of late fall and early spring, during the migration period. So there's those. And then for the federal side, for threatened and endangered species, a process called a biological evaluation is completed. And I've got all the forms for those, and we're working on getting it. I don't think this round of RTP projects will be able to do it. We're trying to get it so that all of them just go through the CERT review, which is more of an automated process for these reviews. The biological eval is a little bit more involved, and it'll be something you'll have to work with the consultant on accomplishing, because they have to fill out kind of this matrix based on X construction activities taking place. It might affect these different species, and it requires it requires a biologist to fill it out essentially. Whereas CERT, you don't need to be a biologist to fill that out. It does all the thinking for you. Essentially, you just need to tell it where it's looking. So let's see here. SHPO, which is State Historic Preservation Office, we'll provide you guys a draft letter to fill out, kind of similar to the tribal review, where you just include some project information of where they need to look, and they'll check their records to see if there's any cultural or historical sites that are near or on your project area. And if there are, they'll make determination of may affect, not likely to adversely affect, will affect, or no effect. Again, most trail projects are a no effect for the most part. And if there is an effect determination for SHPO, a lot of times what that entails is they'll request to do an actual historic survey for sites, and that can add delays to projects because you got to find a qualified contractor to do that and all that fun stuff. For the most part, that doesn't happen on a lot of projects, but just if you happen to be sometimes near like riverways and stuff like that, waterways, sometimes there might be stuff from Native Americans and all that, but usually it's not too big of an issue for trail projects anyway. So let's see, Army Corps permitting. So this is a big one. If you're doing any sediment disturbance in and around a waterway, this is a permit that can add quite a bit of a delay to your project if you have to get it. That's the 404 permit is discharge of sediment in navigable waterways. So if you're installing a bridge, if you're doing some kind of culvert placement, in a navigable waterway, you may have to apply for that. And your consultant will be able to provide more information and help make that determination. Technically, the Corps is the only organization that can actually make that determination whether a waterway is a navigable waterway in their eyes. I know that's a hotly debated topic, but but you'll be able to get some guidance from them for that. If you have more questions about this as well, let me know. And then 408 permitting. I don't think any of your projects occur on a core levee. That's a popular thing to do, is to put a trail on top of a core levee. And those need 408 permitting, which is essentially doing work on core property. So let's see, if you're disturbing more than 1 acre, which some projects do, some don't, you'll need a structural stormwater permit. Then another big one is the hazardous material review. Most trail projects don't have issues with this, but some do. It just depends on where your trail alignment is. So like rail corridors, for example, tend to be areas where, there have been historical hazards placed in the railway, like oil spills and that kind of thing. And sometimes mitigation needs to occur on items like that. But this just needs to be done by a qualified consultant to complete. Essentially, they'll formulate a report, they'll survey the area that your trail is proposed to be in, and if there's not if they don't have come back with any major findings, then typically it'll be okay. Sometimes you'll have to write in like some minor mitigation or contractor mitigation that could be done during the project. So, and there's a number of other additional reviews that sometimes apply, but those are kind of the major ones that occur in the NEPA document itself. And when you get to that phase of beginning the NEPA, please reach out to me and I will kind of give you some additional assistance if you need it. And then also I will have available on the web grants portal an actual form where you'll begin aggregating all this information and answering a bunch of questions in there as well. If we have time later on, I can show you what the NEPA document looks like if you're not familiar with it. So, and kind of give you an example of what it will look like in the end. It'll essentially be the NEPA form itself, and then just a whole slew of attachments at the end. Some can get pretty long. So, let's see. So when you complete your NEPA document, you'll provide it to me, and I will review it and sign off on it if it looks good. If I see any issues that I know Fed Highway will send it back for comments, I'll try to address them with you individually first, just to minimize the amount of back and forth that happens between me and Fed Highway and the sponsor, typically at that point in time in the project. So let's say hopefully everything looks good and checks out, and Fed Highway approves it, then I just need a updated cost estimate from your consultant, and that will, and also site plans, all that good stuff, and then I will be able to obligate dollars to construction once the NEPA is done. And I cannot obligate dollars for construction until the NEPA document is completed and signed off by Fed Highway. So at that point, we'll, like I said, we'll just obligate dollars for construction. And then I will give the sponsor a notice to proceed letter if the design plans look good and all that. You cannot start construction until I give you that notice to proceed letter. So if they do look good, I'll give you notice to proceed to bid, and then you go and bid your project. Got to widely advertise it, just following your local public agency federal project procurement procedures. And I've got a couple of DOT manuals that if you need assistance following those procedures, I can give that to you. But most consultants that you probably work with are familiar with the processes that are required and all that stuff. So once you bid the project out, let me know who you'd like to hire. So like, a lot of city councils have to approve this stuff. Don't let the city council approve the contract until I get my sign off on it. It just works out easier that way. If there's any small adjustments or something like that, you don't have to wait for the next city council meeting to get that done. it's just good. It's good to make sure it's all good and tidied up before then. And then let's see here. Yeah, so yeah, basically submit your recommendation, and then I'll concur with it, send you a letter back saying, yep, this looks good, please approve the contract. There's a Fed Highway form, it's called Fed Highway Form 1273, and I need that document in whatever contract you have with the construction contractor. It contains a bunch of federal requirements in there for that contractor to follow that are kind of typical on federally funded projects. So, and when we get to that time, I'll remind you all and have that available. Let's see. Then I'll approve the bid, give you guys another notice to proceed with actually building the project. And I just need a copy of that contract on file as well at some point. So then at that point, you guys are free to build your project. I don't really, oversee the project at all. I kind of rely on those quarterly reports from you guys to kind of gauge on where you guys are at, what issues are happening, and all that stuff. If there's ever any big issues that come up, especially anything that, involves like contractor didn't do what was scoped out correctly, or did something during a threatened and endangered conservation condition, that kind of stuff is when you bring me in the loop. If it's running behind on schedule, all that kind of stuff, I can kind of see in the status reports. And in terms of like project extensions and whatnot, I really like seeing projects get done if they don't have any big permitting hurdles, or if it's not too complex of a project. I really like seeing them done. So like, let's say for you guys' cycle here, like December 2023 would be a nice project end date if you can get to it. So like, basically doing all your environmental design in 2022, bidding over the winter, and then actually doing your build in 2023 is ideal. But things happen. We had a lot of issues 2019 with the flooding, and then 2020 with COVID. And even now today, there's material availability issues, price increases, all that fun stuff. And so, we're fairly lenient on project extensions, but you just have to have a good justification for why. So, if you ever need to get one done, just give me a call and we'll discuss it, and I'll let you know what you need to do. Essentially, it's just sending me a letter requesting that, but I like to talk to you over the phone about it first. So let's say you guys go and complete your project, and let's see, and once it's done, you'll notify me. We do require that you have a sign placed somewhere along the trail project area it's just a little RTP logo that has Kim Parks and Fed Highway Administration on it. And that just sign needs to be placed somewhere along the property. I need to get reached out to and say, we're done with the project, and your consultant should provide you a certification of substantial completion, and I'll need that for my project file. I'll come out and actually do a physical inspection of the project. I will walk every inch of the trail that was funded and look for things, and just make sure, seeding and grading is taken, or seeding and grading was done well. That grass is actually coming back, make sure the concrete's not falling. If it is concrete trail, make sure it's sloped correctly, make sure there's no obvious drainage issues, things that'll cause you guys, headaches in the future as the manager and maintainer of the trail. So I'll try to keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. Because if there are, issues, and issues do occur, I understand stuff gets looked over, but I want to make sure that you guys are becoming owners of a trail that is, built sustainably and won't cause you headaches in the future. So once I do the final inspection, we'll do then the final reimbursement, and I'll go through a punch list of items. Once the final reimbursement is made, then we'll do a certificate of completion and I'll close the project out essentially. So that is the life cycle of an RTP project essentially. Like I said, December 2023 is going to be the initial project end date for each of you in the project agreement that I'll have you sign. But again, those are amendable and extendable, for various reasons. But that's, I think, a pretty good starting point. It gives you, I think, enough time to get all the work done, obviously, but it also doesn't give you too much time to all gag, so to speak. So, and if it needs to, if you truly think it needs to be a different date, please let me know and we can discuss or negotiate, figure it out. So, let's see. Any questions at this point before we go into kind of random tidbits here?
This is Brittany in Shattern. I have a question. We have already been through the engineering and the design engineering for
Brittany,
phase 1.
Are you talking? Yeah. I can't quite hear you, I don't think.
Oh yeah. Well, let me try to take those out. Can you hear me now? No?
We can hear you good, Brittany.
Okay. Can you hear me, Alex? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay. Could you all hear me the last 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, our question is, we have already hired, well, we did the engineering study and then we did the design engineering for the phase 1 prior to our application. The contractor that we use, he does work with the city on other projects. So do we have to go through that entire process again, or can we go over that process with you and make sure that we did do it right?
Yeah, so it depends. Yeah, if I'm assuming FHU is who you're talking about.
Well, they did the engineering study initially. Yep. And then we had another, a local contractor do the design engineering.
Okay, gotcha. It depends. So, because City of Shattern is technically the sponsor for that project. If they are the on-call engineer or the city engineer, they should have gone through a procurement process to acquire them at some point. Okay. And I would just have to look at those documents. If they are in accordance with federal procurement procedures for locally funded projects, yes, then you can use them without having to go through a whole nother bid system. If not, though, then you do have to re-advertise, so to speak, or do an RFP for a consultant. A request for proposals is what that stands for. So yeah, it just depends. I'd have to take a look at what the city has on file for them, if anything.
Well, you won't be looking hard because it was our nonprofit who did the
oh, I see.
Stuff. So
yeah,
and we can kind of go back through that if we need to, but I didn't know we did send out an RFP for the engineering study. It's just the design part of it is where we hired locally.
Yeah, because because you can use that design, so to speak. If it is the design 100% complete, done.
I believe so, but no, we haven't received it fully yet. So
okay,
maybe not all the way.
Well, so you can use the design, obviously. It's just that RTP can't pay for that design work, is what I was getting at. And it can't be used as match either. But for this, the city will be able to procure a consultant if they need to, or you can work off of that design that you already have. It depends on where it is exactly in its completion. I just don't know. So
yeah. Okay, cool.
Does that answer the question?
Kind of. I can chat with you more about it when I have more information. But if we already have that done, then we get it all approved by you and we can move forward with it.
That still needs to get done though.
Okay.
Which you'll definitely need a consultant for that anyways. So it would probably be wise, because that's the thing. You can approach the consultant with a scope of work for whatever you need. If you already have a design to work with, then that's fine. It's just not a part of the scope of work that that consultant needs to do. And so, you can still get reimbursed then after City of Shattern procures the consultant for doing the NEPA, they can also hire him for construction engineering oversight during the construction itself, which I would recommend, I think, for your guys' project especially. So yeah, so we can talk more about it too. But
Yep, no, that
more
makes a
likely,
lot
it
of
kind of sounds like you're gonna have to redo an RFP for a consultant though.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Alex, this is Amber Clausen from
Yeah.
Lindsay Area Development. I
Yep.
was curious, so on that NEPA, we had, I guess, a FEMA project done in our park a couple of years ago. Do you know how long those last, or is it different? Do we have to have that redone for each project regardless?
It will more than likely need to be redone, but there are probably elements from that document that you've done in the past that will transfer over and or speed things up a little bit. And it just depends. I'd have to look at that NEPA document that was done on the park area in Lindsay for FEMA. And because that's the thing is, like, different federal agencies kind of operate the NEPA process differently. And if it doesn't quite fit with what Fed Highway is wanting, then we'll have to add some things most likely. But yeah, I think that'll probably be helpful, but more than likely you'll still have to start a new one. And then just if there are elements in that item or in that one that you did for FEMA, they'll be able to just translate over pretty easily. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Alex, this is Marty Stovall with the city of Nebraska. So how we started this project, we had a nonprofit provide some dollars to do some preliminary engineering for our trail. So currently we have our city engineer who we reached out to provide 60% plans. We're obviously not final design yet and or permitting, but can we continue on with that design and with our city engineer who wasn't procured specifically for this?
Yeah. Yes, you can. So being an internal employee, that's a different matter where you don't really have to procure them, so to speak. So yeah, you could continue with the design work on that. And are you intending to utilize?
It's an outside form. It's an outside firm.
It is. Okay.
Yes. So,
but
can we continue with that design and with the outside firm who provides city engineering for us?
Yes. Yeah, most likely. Again, I just need the procurement documents that you use to procure that firm initially as the city engineer, because I'm sure there was a RFP process of some kind done when that engineer got brought, when they got him brought on board.
So I've been here 6 years and it's been kind of reappointed since then.
Okay.
We have procured for other projects where I do have procurement, but they were for other construction specific projects.
Yeah.
And so that alone's kind of kept them as being reinstated as city engineer. So
yeah. Okay.
I have questions.
Yeah. I would need to see what documents were like used to procure them and ensure there was like a request for proposal, so to speak, where you broadcast out this is scope of services of work that we need and all that stuff. So yeah, I'd have to look into it more.
I'll share what I have and just you can kind of guide me from there. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. And more than likely, yeah, I mean, the design you'll be able to probably continue on. And this is the thing, a lot of communities come into an RTP project kind of already working with a consultant, and usually it's their on-call or city engineer, so to speak. And so usually it's just fine. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Excellent questions. All right. Okay. Move on to these are just kind of items to note, kind of policy things about Rec Trails program, just kind of also preferences as well. So the Recreational Trails program is very interesting in the fact that gives the states a lot of leeway on how they operate the program. So every state runs this program differently. Different amount of people they dedicate to it, different policies. Some allow things that other states don't, and all that stuff. So this list is kind of a mix of all that kind of stuff, things that are kind of a little bit inherent to our state specifically, but also a mixture of actual federal level policy stuff. I can give you guys a link to the actual federal policies that guide this program as well. So you guys can have that and refer to it if you need it. But a lot of this is in here. So for reimbursements, those can be requested pretty much at any time work has been completed. So as you incur invoices on your project, you can request reimbursement. What I really, really, really like though is that you wait, and if you can do it, I know not all communities can do it, but if you can wait for your billing invoices to accrue to about $10,000 at a minimum, that really, really helps me out with the amount of paperwork I have to do over the lifetime of a project. Because every time a reimbursement submitted, I got to do a bunch of paperwork and then send it off to Fed Highway, and the Fed Highway has to do a bunch of paperwork, and it just kind of slows everybody down with all the other stuff as well that they're doing in terms, like when you get to NEPA reviews and all this stuff. It really helps clean up our kind of pipelines on actually getting a lot of that other work done that could be holding up other projects as well. So, that's just a request. If your city does need the cash flow for doing smaller reimbursement amounts, that's totally fine, and absolutely willing to work with you on doing that. So, but it's an item. I like to try to keep our reimbursements at a minimum of $10,000. Some communities, if they're larger, they float the entire project cost and then do one big reimbursement at the end. It just depends on what your guys' financial situation's like, and I leave that up to you all to tell me what you need. But and I'm happy to work with you however which way you want. So it just kind of depends on how you want to work there. Like I said earlier, let's see here. So another item is the quarterly report. It's another item that you'll see in the web grants portal, and we'll take a look at kind of what that looks like here in a few minutes. So you just I'll assign you a quarterly report. It'll have a due date for you, and you just have to fill out this little online fillable form through the web portal. It's just kind of like, is your project on schedule? Are there any hangups? Do you anticipate your construction deadline? Is that still the same? And provide kind of a short narrative of kind of recent happenings type of thing. So like I said, 18 months is typically when we make our project due date, outlined in the RTP contract. And then this is a reimbursement grant. So you will make expenditures with your own dollars for the actual contractual services that you acquire through this project. But you'll submit those invoices to me, and Fed Highway through NGPC will reimburse you 80% of those costs up to your allotted dollar amount. For most projects, it's $250,000. Depending on how much match you have and all that stuff. So does that make sense? Any questions about that? So signage along the trail, signage, and I should specify, signage at crossings need to conform with MUTCD standards, which is a kind of a highway signage standard system that a lot of roadways uses, obviously. So, you're welcome to have like interpretive signage and that kind of thing along your trail, but just you got to use MUTCD standards, which most consultants will have that signage system available to you. It's your typical just kind of roadway stuff that you see. Let's see, the funding sign just has to be big enough for users to see it when you're passing by. Let's see. Again, I prefer to deal with the project sponsor. I am working with you guys on this project, not necessarily a consultant. Some communities, I think, they acquire a consultant and expect them to do all of the work, including the kind of the grant administration stuff, which is fine if they fill it out on behalf of you guys. But I just want you to remember that I am working with you guys, the sponsor. They're just the consultant hired on the project. So let's see. Like I said earlier, if an extension is needed, we'll entertain it. Just gotta have a good justification for why. This bit number here on 11. This can be an issue on some projects when you just don't have a lot of activity. Like, so you're stuck in permitting for whatever reason. So you're waiting for an Army Corps permit or something like that, or something's preventing you from getting your NEPA done, for example. If you don't incur invoices within 365 days of the last one, then, or at the beginning of the project, which is the project agreement date, then your project technically goes into what's called inactive list, which is actually a Fed highway category, or I don't know what the best word for it is, but basically it means that I don't have power of the project anymore. Fed highway can and could make the determination to pull your project due to inactivity, which most likely they won't. They usually need a pretty good reason, and honestly, they won't do it without consultation with me first, for the most part. But just know that it takes the power out of my hands entirely on what may happen with your project. So let's say, let's say you're stuck in permitting limbo, just cannot get a permit approved for whatever reason. This was an issue kind of right after the flood. The Corps was just completely swamped, was not approving construction permits at all. You just can't get stuff moved forward. So like, that's a reasonable thing. Fed highway is not going to pull your project if it goes inactive, but it's just something to keep in mind. You don't want to let your project go too long without a reimbursement on the project. And something that I will do, and I will discuss it with you if I need to, or if I am going to do it. But sometimes you submit a reimbursement request to me, and it's like a small amount, like $1,000 or something. I might hold that and not reimbursement right away. If I see your project potentially running into an issue like that, where you get stuck in permitting or stuck with something, contractor, backs out or something like that, something, catastrophic. I'll hold that payment or reimbursement so that I can do that reimbursement at the very last minute before your project goes inactive, to buy you another 365 days, if that makes sense. So just if I see that start happening, I'll get in touch with you, and I'll ask you for a small invoice to reimburse or something like that, so that we can do that. It just kind of keeps the project out of danger of that happening. So just FYI. Changes in scope of work. Typically, we don't see a lot of this, but there can be small changes in scope of work if there are environmental impacts that would occur due to a certain construction method being utilized, or that was not foreseeable, for example. Stuff like that's absolutely allowable. You have to be a little bit careful, though, because I have to be careful about changing the intent of the project or changing the actual scope of the project too much, because it's what the committee graded you on and awarded your project on, was the scope of work that you guys advertised to them, so to speak. So you kind of got to be a little bit careful about that. I can't, be super lenient on changes in scope of work, but it's something we'll absolutely talk about and discuss if that ever needs to happen. But I just want to let you know, I have to kind of watch that a little bit because, you kind of sold the project to the committee and they awarded you the dollars. But if they then go and change everything, it's not really the project they actually selected. So let's see. Additional funding from RTP anyways, it's not available, kind of you get what you get. And then, if you need more dollars on a project, you'll have to seek other funds to do that if that becomes an issue. I have had to pull one project that was not able to adequately come up with the match for a project. And it wasn't entirely their fault. It was kind of costs were getting too high and they couldn't afford it. They had other priorities at the time. And so the city decided to drop the project also. Just know that. Let's see. If your project comes in under the estimated cost, so to speak, so if you don't expend all of your dollars and there's no additional scope item or like any already determined scope items, we won't allow you to spend that extra dollars. It'll just basically get recouped into the program. Excuse me. Let's see. Yeah, if your project is in wetlands, it'll require additional information for wetland mitigation in the scope. Just know that. Like I said earlier, if you do need a cultural survey due to a SHPO determination of a will effect, let me know and we'll give you some more guidance on that. You have to. There's certain contractors that you have to go with that are qualified to accomplish that kind of work. So most projects don't have that occur, but it can happen depending where your site's at. So, most reimbursements could take up to 45 days from submittal to NGBC. It just kind of depends on kind of how much workload I've got going on at the moment. But I usually try to get it, about half that, to be honest. But just know that I try to get them done at least before 45 days at the latest. So. Well, let's see. Excuse me, sorry there. Let's see. These are some common mistakes that I've seen just in my 3.5 years administering this program that can really get you into hot water and either slow things down or lose your project or delay your project. Instructing ground disturbing activity prior to your NEPA being approved by Fed Highway is a pretty good way to get your project disqualified. So that means no digging, no grading, no nothing on the ground until your NEPA is done on that project site. And yeah, just be very careful about that. Like if you have this becomes more of a problem if you have like a trail project going alongside a road project, for example. That's where kind of you run into this kind of well, if it just went over there with my bulldozer and graded this section for the trail work that we've got to do anyways, that can get you into hot water. So just don't do it. If you have property that you need to acquire for the project, it's got to be in accordance with the Uniform Act procedures. And if you have property that you need to acquire, please reach out to me and I will give you more guidance on that. Essentially, you have to notify the property owner of your intent to purchase the property, or even if they intend to donate it to you, you have to offer them the appraised value for the property, and then they just have to deny that offer in writing and say, nope, I won't give it to you, type of thing, or lease it or whatever. So, and typically right-of-way acquisition will occur at the same time we're kind of doing the NEPA stuff, but you don't sign those leases or easements or purchase agreements until after the NEPA is technically approved, is when you move on to any right-of-way acquisition that you need to do. Let's see, make sure you have adequate match on hand for the project. Having inadequate match can get your project pulled. Like, for example, I said construction costs increased and they just didn't have enough match on hand to actually complete the project, for example. So don't give any contractors, consultants, anything, notice to proceed without NGPC approval. I'll send you a PDF letter, or at the very least, I'll give you an email. And, if you have something from me in writing, that's good enough. If I said something on the phone, generally don't take it, as word to go for it, but wait till I get it to you in writing is the safest bet. And then, for example, another one is not adhering to the Buy America policy. So any and all steel that needs to be built into this project for whatever reason, whatever it is, whether it's, safety railing or rebar or whatever metals are on the trail project, there's all kinds of stuff that could be used. It's all going to be made in America. Usually those vendors will have a Buy America certificate, and it's really important that you get that certificate from that vendor. Typically your contractor can get it for you from that vendor. Just make sure that is adhered to. It's a federal statute or requirement that needs to be followed. So just know that. So typically you just have to find the vendor, and your contractor will do it. They'll find a vendor that has a Buy America certified product. So that is pretty much the training list here. Guess now is a good time to stop for more questions, and then I'm going to go into the Web Grants portal and poke around in there and show you just what that looks like. I'll try to show you on what you guys see, because I think that'll help give you some guidance on how to poke around there as well. Again, this is the first year that we're using it, so I do expect some growing pains and issues. So please, I appreciate some patience and understanding on that. But if you are running into an issue, you can't upload something on time and whatnot, please just give me a call. I'm happy to work with you, or we'll figure out a way to get it to me. Obviously via email is probably going to work just fine. But yeah, just let me know if something's not working right, and we'll get you figured out. And I do want to make this point here. I know you guys on the call are probably integrated with this with your projects, but if there's any other people that will be submitting items into the web portal throughout the rest of the grant, please ensure that they get an account and associate themselves with your project so that they're able to do that. Any questions? Okay. Let's see. John, you sent me a question in the chat.
Alex, do we, on tree removal, can those be removed to place the trail, or are we not allowed to remove any trees to place the trail?
Yeah, trees can absolutely be removed to place the trail. It's just a matter of when. So if you, it depends where you are. And so when you go through the NEPA process, you'll be given some, they call them conservation conditions. And so so the one that has to do with tree removal typically is northern long-eared bat. If they are basically known to be in the area, then you can't remove trees in June and July. I can't remember the exact time frame for it. So it just means you can't remove trees during that period, because that's like their nesting and mating season or something like that. It just has to be outside that time frame for tree removal. And there's other kind of similar conservation conditions that basically just restrict construction activity during a certain period to allow for nesting periods and that kind of thing for various threatened and endangered species. Yep.
I do have one more question, Alex. In reference to the construction, they talk about the signage, the RTP logo. Who supplies those?
I will supply the logo to you, but you will get it printed on a sign of your choosing. A lot of folks have a trailhead sign they're already buying. and they can integrate it into that, or they can, place it on their own, a little 6x6 aluminum sign or plastic sign or something like that, whatever is working for you. And that's typically done very end of the project. Say that again.
You supply the logo to the village.
Yes. Yep. I'll send you the logo, but then you have to get the sign procured and built. And it's a reimbursable item, so we pay for 80% of it. Any other questions before I dive into the web portal here? All right. Okay. So can you all see the grant portal here?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Excellent. And Lauren, I am sorry, I'm probably gonna butcher your grant here as an example, but you don't need to do as much as all the other people. So
No worries.
it'll be sacrificed. The greater good here. Okay, so this will be, so I don't know if you saw this morning, you probably saw an email from the web grant system. Oh, that's a big reminder. Please make sure to mark the automated emails from the web grant system not as spam. I know that some of these go to the spam folders in your folks' email accounts. So I just want to make sure that that you guys mark it not as spam and put it in like your trusted, what do you call them, senders on your whatever email program that you use, just to make sure that if this thing, sends you reminders, it's not all going to your spam folder and you don't look at it. So let's see. So this should be what you see when you get into your grant portal. Now that you have an actually approved grant, you should have seen an email earlier today from a status change from, I think, approved or awarded to underway. So now that your grant is underway, it means in the system, you're kind of live and can actually see all this stuff. You can attach, documents, submit questions, do all kinds of stuff. I do want to point out up here, there is this online help button. A lot of times it'll open up a little text box with some information about, excuse me, here one second. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat there. It'll open up a text box with some information about whatever page you're on and give you some information on how it works. And then I also typically have better luck using the back button within the window here versus like the back button in your browser. Sometimes it'll goof things up. So just FYI, I try to use the back button as much as possible. Let's see here. So as you can see in here, these are all the different components. If you click on general information, it should just pull up information about you, the applicant. If you need to ever reference your application, it is down here at the bottom, and you should be able to click on it. It'll open up all this information. You should still be able to see all your attachments that you uploaded to the portal when you applied and all that stuff. If you ever need to reference any of that material, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Let's see, status reports. So these are the status report reports that I will have you do. See, I was playing around with this earlier. When I'll actually create a status report for you and set a due date, and it should notify you in the system that you have a status report that's coming up to be done. And then you should be able to, let's see, this progress report here. This is the form I was talking about. See, it just asks you a couple of different questions here about the project. what phase of the project. So we have a couple different phases, like I said, design phase, construction phase, and then inspection is the final. On the screen. Then it asks like what your estimated completion date is, the project, and then up the phase as well. So that's like, you know, if you're in design phase, at what point do you think it'd be done with the design, et cetera. So, and then you can add additional comments in here. I might add a file upload thing on here. I'm not sure. I might have it up somewhere else somewhere else too. So if you have like in progress construction photos of the project, you can upload them in there, which would be helpful as well. So let's see. Actually, so that's what that looks like. Yeah. Like I said, when I use the back button, it doesn't play nicely. There we go. Okay. Let's see. I believe these encumbrances are where I think you'll see like a drawdown on your grant amount, what that is. And then these claims are where you'll actually submit your reimbursement requests here. So I'll edit this one here. Okay, so here's where you'll enter in whatever information that you need to for whatever each reimbursement that you have. And you'll attach all your invoices. And then I've got some other supporting documentation that you'll attach as well. And so if you need to attach something, you just click add new attachment and select file, and then you can pick whatever file that you need to add in there, and just make sure you put a good description on it so we know what it is. And then a lot of times this mark is complete item. So when you're done, you just mark it as complete, and then it'll notify me that you're done with that item and send it off. So. Okay. In here, so yes, you can always call me, but it's also good to have correspondence done within the system. I'm trying to make it so all this stuff is in the system for my project records, and so you can email me, but if you send me stuff in here, it'll notify me that you have emailed me, and I'll have like a task list of stuff to work on in the system, and I'll address your items in there. Obviously, if there's an issue or an emergency that needs immediate attention, please do contact me via email or phone to discuss something. But if you have something that's just not super pressing, I would request that you utilize the system for correspondence. There's some other stuff in here. So this is like when you get your actual contracts done for your consultant and your contractor eventually, and any other contract work that you need done, put that in there, and I can approve those contracts through the system, and then those will kind of act as your notice to proceed type thing. So it's in here. At the end, I'll do a site visit, a walkthrough, and that's going to be recorded and documented in here. I have to assign that to the project, so that's why you didn't see anything in there. And then grant attachment. So this is like all the other miscellaneous stuff. This will be where I'll have you upload your NEPA document in here. And what'll be nice about that is then you won't have to deal with, like your email file send limits. Cause I mean, these NEPA documents could get like 20 to 80 megabytes each. It just depends on how much stuff that needs to get put in them. So it'd be nice. We kind of have a file share system in here. So when you're sharing large documents, we won't have to, worry about emails getting bounced back and all that stuff. Let's see. And then this funding opportunity, this is just the like original application page that has some original documents and program overview stuff. So you can reference it if you need to. There's some RTP policies in the program overview, for example, and whatnot. And I'm trying to find a good document repository for all of the selected sponsors. And it might be that, but I'm not sure. I think there might be another place that I can put in. So like, for example, that the NEPA form, I'll have that in a central location where you can download and look at it. I'll have some other documents as well that you'll need throughout the life cycle of the grant. So I'm still trying to find the best kind of document repository area for you all within the system. So yeah, that's kind of quick overview of the system. Have you all had any other issues with the system at all? Troubles logging in, all that stuff, or has it been largely okay?
No issues so far.
Excellent. Okay. Well, so that's pretty much the system here. You know, if you ever do apply again, it should have all your applications in here. And as I post future funding opportunities, for example, I think you all are subscribed to the RTP side. Land and Water Conservation Fund for State of Nebraska also utilizes this system. So you can also see funding opportunities in here for that. But you should be able to see when I open up applications for this year, you'll see my FY23 funding opportunity in here going on in the future. And, you know, if other theme park grant programs utilize the system, you'll see other ones in the future too. So it's good to be in this portal and kind of check it every once in a while. You know, you're already in here. So yeah, that's kind of all I got for this. Trying to think what other questions here. I'll stop sharing. So like I said, I'll send you all a project agreement that I need you to sign and return to me just sometime in the next week or so. And then please do sign that that administrative training document I sent as well, and sign that and return it back to me as well. So I don't know, any other questions for the moment? Okay, I haven't talked that long for a little while. My throat's not liking it.
Hey, Alex, this is
Yeah.
Julie. I was just mentioning to Lauren, Nebraska Game and Parks is really on top of their electronic stuff. Like that portal looks really great. And I think it's great that you put on this training after a few years to help us understand what could sync something.
Yeah, for sure. I hope, you know, none of that ever happens to anybody, but you know, it's just stuff to be aware of. And I see it too. Sometimes, you know, sponsors have no idea and just unintentionally, you know, step on a landmine by accident, you know, and no fault to them. Yeah, it should be good. So, and I'm going to try to do kind of more of these trainings. I'll probably do like self-recorded webinars. Well, I'll just post a YouTube link on here somewhere and I'll let you guys know. Like if I'm constantly working on, I'm trying to work with Fed Highway on changing some of our procedures. Like I was saying about the threatened and endangered species review thing, and trying just to go directly through CERT. Like I would like to do just a CERT overview on how to input projects into there, a whole bunch of stuff. So I'll try to find a thing in here, good place to put all this information as well for you all to browse through as needed. So. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. I'm trying to think what else. I don't know. Anyone else got anything to say at the moment? If not, we can be done 45 minutes early too. That's fine with me. Yeah, let's see. And I thought I don't know. I think there's a way in here where there's like a comment forum thing where all the current project applicants can talk to each other. So like if you have a question, you know, and another sponsor might know the answer or something like that, you can all kind of like chat with each other. I can't remember where that's at exactly, or even if it does actually have it, I can't remember, but it might be like a module that's turned off. Yeah, I mean, maybe that was only during the application phase that could be done. I can't remember. But yeah, if you ever have questions going through this process, you know, please give me a call. If you're ever unsure about what to do next, you know, definitely email me, give me a call. And you know, I am here to help you guys out. I won't do the project for you, but I will help you as much as I possibly can. So let's see. Yeah. So I wonder, I might be able to actually assign you guys the RTP training, administrative training document in the program. So I might try to do that. So if you see something from me later today with an assignment to do this, then you'll know to do it through that, and then you can re-upload it into the portal. And then there it'll be for your first upload into the portal. So yeah, everything seemed pretty easy and clear. Was it straightforward? I know some of you have already gone through this process one time already. So
Alex, I think the digital side was a lot easier, a lot better this year than, it was just so easy to fill in the blanks, you know, just fill in what was what versus the paperwork. It just was trying to get it all in the right order. So, you know,
yeah,
kind of what Julie said, but that was super good this year.
yeah, I think it's been a big help too, because like we didn't have to disqualify any applicants because of something wasn't filled out right, you know, because there's required fields, like you can't submit an application that's not done correctly. So that was, I think, a good addition. So although I know there were a couple of them where, you know, there's like one button you didn't check mark complete on and couldn't submit the application. So I know there's some growing pains with that, but I think overall it worked better. So, well, good deal. I think let's just leave it there. I'm going to hit stop recording, and I'm going to